It's my pleasure to welcome you to Northern Kentucky History Hour. I am your host for tonight, Mary Jane Calderon, joining you from my office at Behringer-Crawford Museum. Also joining me to my left is our presenter for the evening, Marty Schadler.
Hello.
And we have Heather Cook joining us from her dorm in Worcester, Ohio. So thank you both for being here. Northern Kentucky History Hour is a project of Behringer-Crawford Museum, Northern Kentucky's history museum, that would not be possible without support. Thank you to all of our sponsors, including the City of Covington, Kenton County Fiscal Court, Arts Wave, Kentucky Arts Council, Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame, the Carol Ann and Ralph B. Hale Jr. Foundation, and our members. If you're not yet a member of the museum, please consider joining for access to discounts and exclusive programming. Learn more and join at bcmuseum.org. We would love to hear from our viewers tonight, so if you have a question or comment to share, please type it in the chat or the Q&A feature, and I'll be sure to get to those at the end of the presentation. Let's meet tonight's presenter. Marty Schadler brings a wealth of knowledge and passion for aviation history with his years of experience conducting outreach activities in the Northern Kentucky area for the Aviation Museum of Kentucky. Schadler's historical flight experiences include a remarkable journey aboard a replica of the Wright brothers Model B flyer. So now before we get started, we have a quiz question tonight. The first respondent to enter a correct answer in the chat on Zoom or Facebook Live wins a Northern Kentucky History Hour prize. And most importantly, bragging rights. So I'm going to let Marty introduce our tonight's trivia question. So Marty, what's the question?
The tri-state area can claim the notable aviation history achievement as being the home to the oldest continuous in-use general aviation airport in North America. Can you name the state and the airport?
All right, so go ahead and get those answers in the chat and good luck. So now if we can go ahead and share our screen here in one moment. Heather, if you want to stop sharing your screen, or maybe I can do it still. I think I can. Okay, here we go. And let's pull this up right here. And I think we're good to go. There you go, sir.
Good evening, everyone. And I am from the Aviation Museum of Kentucky. I am a local Northern Kentucky resident. I live in the shadow of Steele Library over by NKU. But I'm here tonight on behalf of the Aviation Museum of Kentucky. As you see on the slide, we've been in business since 1995, so next year will be our 30th year. We are home to the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame and the Kentucky Aerospace Education Center. And one of the most exciting things we do is to have aviation summer camps. We've been doing those since 1996, and there will be an aviation summer camp at CVG in July. So it's quite a proud thing for us to do. There I am again, a museum life member. I also served on the board for about 16 years. If you're a person who likes to fly, but you can't do it yourself, you call yourself a featherless biped. So that's what I am. Here's our building down at Bluegrass Airport in Lexington, where education and history meet is basically our branding statement. And we've been doing this for some time. As I said, we opened in 1995. The latest thing on the horizon is perhaps a new building on the airport. Our building has, of all things, very wide doors, and they are coveted by the airport to be rented to people with airplanes. So that's in progress, and we hope that perhaps that will allow us to get to a better building that will allow us to teach and do the things we've been doing. Here's our title tonight, Pride in the Skies, Northern Kentuckians in the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame. When I say Northern Kentucky, if you can think of Harrison County, Cynthiana is a county seat, and go north, that is the portion of Northern Kentucky I'm talking about. The folks we'll be talking about have been entered into our Hall of Fame through a nomination and voting process. So it is a sampling, it's not exhaustive. I'm sure there's other Northern Kentuckians in time who deserve to be in the Aviation Hall of Fame. I will mention that the opinions I share tonight are my own and not necessarily the opinions of the Aviation Museum of Kentucky or the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame. So let's get started. There's our logo for the Hall of Fame. And as I said, this is what I like to do tonight, sample a rich but not well-known story of Northern Kentuckians in air and space. And I'll be doing these alphabetically, so that's why we're beginning with General John M. Allen, who is from Harrison County in Cynthiana. We recognized him and put him in the Hall of Fame for his service in the U.S. Air Force and the FAA. After Allen's career in the Air Force, he went on to join the Federal Aviation Administration and was Director of Flight Safety Standards. And as you can see, that's the enforcer job for American airspace and the safety we enjoy. He's done a good job, and I would contend the FAA still does that. He is from Cynthiana and Harrison County, and he joined our Hall of Fame in 2015. During his military career, General Allen was involved with the cargo and transport aircraft that basically our Air Force flies. And I've got two examples that are still very much alive and in use in the Air Force. Up in the left-hand corner, that plane is called a C-130 Hercules. It is a turboprop, so it has propellers. That plane has been around since the 50s, and they really can't come up with a better plane that the job does. So General Allen flew those and also was an instructor pilot for those. And then the plane down in the lower right is the Globemaster II. It's called the C-17, jet-powered. That's one of the planes our Air Force relies on very much for cargo and transport in these days. Impressive airplane. It uses a computer to get the load correct so it flies well. And if you're out on the runway and you need to move around, it has enough reverse thrust that you could back it down the runway. So these are two exciting planes if you're into aircraft, and they were the planes that General Allen was involved with. Here's another lady in our Aviation Hall of Fame. She is from Harrison County as well. She joined the Hall of Fame in 2003. Esther Ammerman was one of those amazing women who was in the WASP, the Women Air Force Service Pilots, a group of women who stepped up early in the 40s and said, we want to help the effort. And they were very much needed because they did a range of flying duties. The WASP flew planes from the factories to the coast, where they would then go into maybe combat from there and be handed off to male pilots. The other things they would do would be tow targets for gunnery practice, kind of a dangerous business. And they would also fly planes that were just repaired. So they were in some dicey situations. The saddest thing about the WASP is how they were treated. They were in operation until 1943. And by that point, enough men had been trained. And basically our military said, thank you, ladies, you can go home. And they did not get veterans benefits. They received really kind of bad treatment while they were on active duty. There's a story of one of them who unfortunately had a fatal accident. They had to pass the hat so she could be sent home to her family for burial. That got corrected, and Esther Ammerman was part of that. She went and fought the Veterans Administration along with some other WASPs, and during the 70s, they finally got veterans benefits for the WASPs. So Esther deserves credit not only for her service, but for taking care of her sister pilots afterward. Wanted to show this plane as well. This is the B-29 Super Fortress. It was developed late in the 30s and then into the 40s and did get into the war toward the end. It is the type of aircraft that dropped the atomic bomb, but it was the most complex aircraft that was being developed at the time. It had one of the first computerized gun control systems. And it was developed quickly. And one of the problems is that the engines would overheat. And the men pilots really struggled to fly this, but the WASP took right to them. And very often their job was to take something like this big plane, the B-29, and they were built in the Midwest, and they would be taken to the West Coast. None of these planes served in Europe, but they were flown, obviously, in the Pacific where the atomic bomb was dropped. Two of these still remain flying, and I understand that one of them may be visiting Lunkin this summer. And it is truly impressive to see a B-29 on the ground and to fire up and take off. Here's our next one, and this gentleman is from Boone County, a little closer to us, J. Leland Atwood. The slide pretty much tells the kind of things he was recognized for, a leader in design, engineering, and corporate operations. Mr. Atwood gave his life basically to North American aviation from 1934 to, I believe, 1999. He gave rather a stretch of time here. Let me check. Okay, 1934 to 1978, I beg your pardon. 44 years of his life was spent with North American Aviation. And I have there on the slide from fabric to hypersonic. The very first planes they flew probably flew around 100 miles an hour. Before it was all over, North American had a plane that would go Mach, let's see, 6.7. That's 4,500 miles an hour. And one of the achievements of North American is the number of aircraft that they built to help the war effort during World War II. I have that number there, 41,000 aircraft. And that was a challenge, but one thing that helped North American is that they had an in, so to speak. Their majority owner at that time was General Motors. And of course, the automotive manufacturers knew how to assemble things effectively. And North American had access to assembly techniques and were able to build their planes efficiently and at cost and in ways that we don't think of in defense contracts these days. But Mr. Atwood joined up with three guys back in 34 who were all hired away from other companies. And General Motors said, let's go ahead and be a successful aviation company. And that became North American Aviation. I have a whole presentation on Atwood and North American. It's that important, but I'll move on from here and talk about two of the planes that are considered the best that were built by North American Aviation. Up there on the left, that's their logo from World War II. The plane across from that up in the upper right is the P-51 D model Mustang, considered the best propeller fighter plane ever built. This was designed by North American, and they were really waiting for an opportunity to build it. And it came along when they were given permission to develop it and sell it to, of all things, the Royal Air Force. And it was built in a very short period of time. It suffered from an ineffective engine. It couldn't go into high altitudes very well. And then the Brits, God bless them, they found out that if we use something from Rolls-Royce, something called the Merlin engine, and bolt that thing in, it would turn it around, and it made it truly a successful aircraft. If you're interested in this, Tri-State Warbird Museum has a P-51D model that still flies, if you'd really like to see it and get up close to them. It is an impressive aircraft. Down at the bottom is the X-15. That was also built by North American, considered the best research aircraft ever built. It was a rocket plane. It could go up to that Mach 6.7. Here's the fun part. It had no brakes. They landed on some skids and just rolled out on the salt beds in Southern California. Three of these were built. One was lost during the testing. If you'd like to see an X-15, all you have to do is drive to Dayton. They have one on display. It was really, as I said, built for research, and it accomplished across the three aircraft 199 missions, a lot of things that affected later aircraft development. It was a little bit under the shadow of the space program. So many folks were working with the X-15, doing very good research, but the American public only knew about Apollo and Gemini and things like that. Okay, we're back again with another inductee, and this is a gentleman, General Jesse Oughton, who is from Pendleton County, native of DeMossville, and he was brought into our Hall of Fame in 2018. The Air Force prides itself on having things in writing and ways to do things. It's called doctrine. And General Oughton was an expert in military air operations, fighter tactics in particular. How do you train the pilots to be the best in their airplanes and the best against the enemy? Those were the kind of things that General Oughton worked with. When he was put into our Hall of Fame, he was recognized for his Air Force career, especially at SAC, the Strategic Air Command. And a lot of the doctrine and so on in the early ages when big bombers were carrying a lot of nuclear weapons, it was Oughton who was basically developing how those planes would operate and the planes that would go up with them that would operate. He was not just a desk operator. He flew combat missions in World War II in Korea. And so he had it all, so to speak. He unfortunately died in a landing accident of all things at a Strategic Air Command base. Speaking of that, just wanted to show in his days when General Oughton was active duty, this was the patch for the Strategic Air Command. And you can see the mailed fist and the bolts of lightning was just kind of portending to the power and energy as the most nuclearly well-armed military in the world at that time. All right, we're going back down to Harrison County now, and a gentleman by the name of Larry Gossett. And Larry had might be called a typical career, went through ROTC, got into the Air Force, and then after active duty, joined a commercial business, the FedEx. But during his days in the Air Force, he was involved with laser-guided bombing technology, and that is so important to the accuracy of bombing today and a good use of military ordnance that he did some things that really got the bugs worked out. He did that while he was in Europe, assigned to bases over there, and probably a good place to test it because of the crazy weather. They had to make sure that the laser would work in all adverse weather conditions. He was there to help get those things worked out. From there, he got to FedEx. He started out as a FedEx pilot, moved to be a senior pilot, and was basically doing instruction work and management of pilots as he stayed at FedEx. We recognize Larry especially for setting up a foundation for aviation education to help students who might be doing an aviation major with their tuition and their expenses. So Larry is a native of Harrison County, as I mentioned. I want to show the plane that Larry did his testing in. This is called the F4 Phantom II. This is an Air Force version, and it's also a museum. It looks nice and neat, so that's why it's a good-looking airplane. The Aviation Museum of Kentucky, we have a Marine version of this, a very popular plane. The Air Force, the Navy, and the Marines flew it. Larry Gossett would have been flying it as an Air Force pilot. It's considered one of the better planes because it had a lot of power, was used a lot during the Vietnam War. You can see it's got a lot of nooks and crannies and things like that. And aerodynamics, it creates drag. So this was considered a great triumph of thrust over rather over bad aerodynamics. But pilots who flew it loved them. It was a two-seater, so there was a pilot and a weapons systems officer. You can see one of these at our museum, and there's also, this one is a picture of one that's at the museum in Dayton. All right, back to south a little bit. We're going to Mason County, and James Graybill, who was recognized for his airline career and his promotion in flight safety. That point there on the slide, 33,000 flight hours. That's a lifetime, so to speak. And Jim was flying from as young as he could until as old as he could, basically. And he was a flight officer from 1961 until 1989 with Eastern Airlines. He had some experience with some other airlines in Europe as well. We inducted Jim in 2010, and I was able to speak to him on several occasions prior to his passing. And very generous man, a very intelligent man about flight. And Jim made a great donation of a collection of the aircraft used by Eastern Airlines before it closed. And these models are down on our museum floor in Lexington. These are two things that were very important to Jim's career. Obviously, I mentioned Eastern Airlines. Maybe some of our viewers flew that. It's hard to believe it went away in 1991. It was a very capable airline. It got caught up in corporate investments and steps that were probably more harmful than helpful, and really went into bankruptcy when it was still a very viable airline. The folks who flew for Eastern still have a very active group, kind of the Eastern alumni. That was very important to Jim. The picture of the aircraft, that's a Gulfstream. And after Jim left Eastern, he went to work for a company called Flight Safety International. And they train pilots to be the safest pilots they can be. And flight safety has a very good reputation. Jim specialized on the Gulfstream. He had many hours flying Gulfstreams, worked with the manufacturer, and basically wrote a book on how to help pilots fly this as safely as possible. Gulfstreams are a very neat aircraft. They're kind of the premier business and executive aircraft. You'll see him fly over Northern Kentucky skies. Procter & Gamble has, I think, at least 3 Gulfstreams for their corporate fleet. Very impressive aircraft. Jim Graybill was the expert on keeping them safe. I'm sorry about the image here, a little bit pixeled, but we're back to Boone County and Mr. Bob Holscher, who ran a CVG in the days before it is what it is today. He was recognized for his career in major airport operations and entered the Hall of Fame in 2009. Bob is an interesting story because he started as a fireman at the airport and stayed around long enough to be running the place before he left. So that's quite an achievement. And what he did there in the late 80s and the 90s, and you might remember it was during the 90s when the concourses and so on that we have today were developed. Bob was instrumental in make that happen. It is today one of our bigger cargo airports, and some of the things that Bob Holscher started make it what CVG is today. And there is CVG today. That's the tower that's out there now. And as I said, the foundations of things that make CVG to go today go back to Bob Holscher. I hit another person from Harrison County. I'm not sure what made him so great. Maybe they have just a lot of people who are good at nominating airplane types from Harrison County, but they're all very much deserving. But Fred Keller, and that first point is something that just isn't enjoyed by too many people, nationally recognized expert on home-built aircraft. And we'll get a little bit on the plane he's built, but he is from Harrison County. Most of his flying and building, he moved to Alaska. And I think he moved to the city where our lady who ran for vice president is from, Wasilla or whatever the name of the city is. But Fred was up there, and flying around Alaska is something you just have to do. And here is Fred. He's on the right with one of the planes he built. If anyone in our audience have ever attempted to build their own airplane, first of all, my condolences. But secondly, the infinite patience and time, it's usually in the terms of years to build your own airplane. And you have to document what you're doing, and the FAA is kind of looking over your shoulder. But Fred Keller was not bothered that at all. And he was recognized by the EAA. I want to cite this award he got. He received in 1989 a Grand Champion Award for what is called plans-built, home-built aircraft. And for our air enthusiasts out there, you know, there's something called the Oshkosh Show. It's sponsored by the Experimental Aircraft Association, and people like Fred and others bring in their airplanes to be judged and picked out. And in '89, Fred pulled it off. He got the Grand Champion Award. Sadly, Mr. Keller just passed away in January in Alaska, but anyone who has time and patience to build their own plane and then fly it deserves recognition from me. Okay, so we've been to Harrison County pretty often. We'll get back to Kenton County with Amy McGrath. And she made it up to Colonel in the United States Marine Corps. And that first point is pretty important for women and young ladies who aspire to serve in our military. Amy was recognized as the first female United States Marine Corps pilot to fly the F/A-18, that means fighter attack airplane in combat. She is from Kenton County, graduate of Notre Dame Academy. Also, there we go. And she is a graduate of the United States Naval Academy, class of 1997. I want to point out what it means to be a superintendent's appointment. Competition is very tough to get into our military academies, but the superintendents of the individual academies reserve a list for people who they believe just should be there because they have the potential and they are going to show what their branch, Army, Navy, Air Force, if they go through the individual academies. And Amy was picked as a superintendent appointment. And so usually you have to have your congressman and you have to do a lot of paperwork. And as I said, competitive, she got the superintendent's appointment. She entered our Hall of Fame in 2016. And since that time, she's going into politics. I do want to show the type of aircraft she flew. That's the FA-18. That particular shot shows an FA-18 going off an aircraft carrier. It is still the primary aircraft that our Navy and Marines fly. Amy McGrath would have flown what is called close air support. And so she would be going over land and trying to help the Marines on the ground who might be in a jam or have some trouble. And close air support means that you want to take out the enemy who basically are very close to your friends, the Marines on the ground. So it's flying precisely, it's flying kind of dangerously because you're probably going to be low and flying between mountains. But Amy thrived in that environment. And so she served as a Marine aviator. As I said, she ran for political office. Her most recent campaign was against Senator McConnell. That was a tough one. She didn't do very well there. She has now gotten involved with a political action commission called the Democratic Majority Action Commission. And as far as I know, it is nonpartisan, but it is for the preservation of our democratic system of government. And it's quite, I think, an honor for us to have someone like this and still engaged beyond our military career in our functions of government. Still in Kenton County, the people who started Comair, and I hope you remember Comair fondly. It was a good airline while it lasted. Ray and David Muller are a father and son team, and back in the 70s, they bought 3 used Piper Navajos. They're basically twin-engine small aircraft, carry 5 to 7 people, but they had this vision about serving smaller markets and getting smaller market passengers to bigger markets where they might get on nonstop airliners, things like that. But it was a real opportunity of being at the right time and the right place. And from those 3 used Navajos, they at one time grew into an operation that had, let's see if I got details here. They had 100 cities that they served, and at their peak, they had 700 flights going in one day. But as times changed and the economics of airlines changed, they kept going, but Delta offered them something they really couldn't refuse, so they sold out to Delta. But the achievement for Ray and David Muller is that this regional airline thing that was always kind of looked down upon in the aviation industry, they took it to a new place. At one time, they had a 100% jet aircraft fleet. So if you flew Comair, no more propellers, you were in a jet aircraft. And that was quite an achievement for a regional carrier. Let's see, move on here. That was the type of plane, the Bombardier, made in Canada by a French company, but they had a Bombardier a fleet that served the Delta connection at that time in Comair. It's hard to believe that the last flight that flew as a Comair identified flight was in September 2012, so quite a long time from there. Okay, we're moving back to Kenton County as well. Colonel Roy Osborne was born in Covington. He was the pilot's pilot. He did a little bit of everything. And he was recognized primarily for what he did in our state, getting the Kentucky State Police up in the air to watch us break the speed limit, I guess. But anyway, in the 50s, after military career and serving in some government positions, Colonel Roy was involved with the state police and flew the very first aircraft assigned to the Kentucky State Police. A rather extensive career, 14,000 flight hours. He was just inducted just a year ago. But to give you an idea of some of the jobs he had, he was with the state police from 1936 to 1956. He was the first Kentucky Air Board inspector in 1931. He was the director of airport development in 1956. And Kentucky offers a challenge because of our terrain, so he had kind of a tough job there to get airports built around the state. Then it was given a status of commissioner of aeronautics, a sort of an executive position in our state government. And he held that in 1957. And all the while, he also was still a member of the Kentucky Air National Guard. So I believe this photo is probably an Air Guard photo, or he may have been doing a test flight. But this is how Colonel Osborne looked when he was with the state police. And this is 1953. And it was a Cessna 170 for you airplane fans who know what that is. And at that time, looking at our aviation development here in the Commonwealth, he probably sat down on a lot of grass fields and didn't find runways that often, especially if he was doing any aerial flying over on the east side of our state. The terrain kind of defies building airports in the Appalachian section of Kentucky. And I'm sure that Colonel Osborne had some moments of landing on grass and maybe even on roadways during his service. So he was there to see it all happen early on. Our gentleman here is from Campbell County, Ed Schneider, who was a Navy pilot, but had some incredible achievements during his career. He was the youngest graduate of a Navy test pilot school. He's a graduate of Covington Latin and Thomas More University, and then got into flying and got into test flying. His achievements here, the NASA Exceptional Service Medal, those aren't given out too freely, but he received that for his career as a test pilot. He also served as the president of the Society of Experimental Test Pilots. That's an interesting group. We can imagine what kind of stories they could tell. He is from Dayton, Kentucky. I've had a chance to speak with Ed. He is a cool and calm person. Nothing like the Top Gun guys you see in the movies, for sure. And he was asked once in an interview, what was one of the scariest experiences he had as a test pilot? And he very calmly said, let's see, I think I was doing about Mach 2, so that's maybe 1,200, 1,300 miles an hour, and my plane caught on fire. And he just said it so matter-of-factly, it was, wow, really? But yeah, Ed was a premier test pilot. You got maybe ice in your veins or just know an incredible amount of confidence. But one of the things he did was fly one of the fastest planes that has ever been around in the United States. This is the SR Search and Recon 71 called the Blackbird. And high-speed flying was one of the things that Ed was involved with. And so he conducted high-speed research in this type. And so he was cranking along at several times the speed of sound. Ed's accomplishments include flying 5 different aircraft that were built strictly for research. And so that took a long career and a very capable career. And we're quite proud that Ed Schneider is in the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame. And with Ed, I do wrap up, but the folks that are in Northern Kentucky or from Northern Kentucky that are in the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame, I did not mention that we do recognize some organizations with something called the Aviation Achievement Award. And through the years, we've honored CVG, we've honored Comair as an airline before recognizing the Mullers. We have recognized a company called FEAM, F-E-A-M. Just recently, they have a very large commitment to aircraft maintenance at CVG. And some of the others we've recognized just recently was Atlas Air. You might see their building as you're driving out along 75. Atlas Air is one of the largest cargo carriers in the world. And their achievements are, well, just very large because of their aircraft. And we recognize them as well. GE Aviation has been an Aviation Achievement Award winner from our Aviation Hall of Fame as well for their incredibly well-built and durable aircraft engines that they've done. So it is an experience to share this with you tonight. We have some people I know out there that probably deserve to be in the Hall of Fame from Northern Kentucky. They just need to be nominated and voted upon. And with that, I say thank you and visit us in Lexington. That's where we are at Bluegrass Airport.
Thank you very much, Marty. Okay, and we're going to go ahead, and I know we have some, let's see, let me stop share. I know that we've got some comments coming in. Heather, did we have a winner for the trivia question?
We did not.
We did not.
Wow.
Did we have some guesses?
We had like 2 or 3 guesses.
Nobody was close, huh? Well, I don't know if we want to. So you want to go ahead and?
Is it time to reveal?
It is time. So go ahead.
Okay. So the winner is.
Well, you want to first repeat the question.
Yeah,
for those
that's good. Yes, a good idea.
Yeah.
Here was our trivia question.
Oh, we did just have somebody submit the correct airport name.
Oh.
If you would like to also follow up with the state.
Okay, who is this person?
Larry Spalding.
All right, Larry.
Okay, well, he says, did he answer something?
He did. That is correct.
So we have a winner.
Yeah, we do have a winner.
Okay, so let's go through that question again.
Okay. The tri-state area can claim the notable aviation history achievement as being the home to the oldest continuous in-use general aviation airport in North America. Can you name the state and the airport?
Okay.
And Larry has it, huh?
He does.
Okay, and what is that answer then? Go ahead and tell me.
The answer is Bowman Field in Louisville, Kentucky, which opened just for aviation purposes and continues since 1919.
Congratulations,
Larry.
Larry. Way to get that answer in right the right time.
And I'll just help with the other two states. In Indiana, the oldest airport there, it was called Stout Field in Indianapolis. That was in 1926. And it was replaced by the airport that serves Indianapolis today in 1931. And the one I thought would be guessed frequently would have been Lunken Field here in Cincinnati. It had non-airport type operations. One gentleman was giving flight lessons with his own airplane, reported in 1921, but then it opened as an airport in 1925, and then it was dedicated after a donation of lots of acres from the Lunken family as Lunken Field in 1930. So we still got to give the award to Larry, and the correct answer, Bowman Field in Louisville.
I'm curious, Heather, did we have Lunken as a guess?
We did.
We did. Okay.
Yeah.
And Larry, if you can send us your mailing address so we can get you your prize, that would be great.
Oh, he just wrote something, Larry.
Actually, I answered the question at something.
Yeah, I can't see everything here. Let's see. Okay, let's see here. Oops, I didn't go this way. Okay, answer question at 6:32 anyway. Oh, he did answer it, he says, earlier. He had answered it.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, well, there's his address. So we're not going to, nobody
Yeah.
can see that.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Larry. But congratulations again, Larry. So let's see. We've got, someone was having trouble, it looks like, seeing the slide. So hopefully they were able to fix that. I hope that was fixed. Did you see that, Heather?
I did.
My brother rung in, and he guessed College Park Airport. That gets credit as the longest continuous in use military. So we got to make a distinction there.
Okay.
Sorry, Dan.
Okay. And then the Kentucky Aviation Museum is in Lexington.
Yes,
right?
that's correct. At Bluegrass Airport.
Okay. And let's see. Okay. So do you know, Heather, did you see any questions that we
Yeah,
had?
there one question that was Huffman Prairie in Ohio where the Wright brothers tested their planes for the first airport? Oh, I guess that was
the answer for the trivia.
Yeah. Raised as a question.
It was strictly testing, not in and out. So it's kind of a little distinction that's made there. But yeah, Huffman Prairie was a place where they really worked all the bugs out of their design.
Okay. If anybody's got any questions or comments for Marty, please leave them in the chat. We'd love to include them here.
Someone flew with Jim Graybill many times. A great and very knowledgeable guy. Yes, I concur with that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'd love to hear any stories of anyone that has family members that they know. I saw someone had wrote on my Facebook page, I shared the video, the live stream, that they were wondering if their uncle will be included. I'm like, well, who's your uncle?
Yeah.
You know? So it's cool if, how would they go through the process if they were wanting to have, and interested in having somebody added into the Hall of Fame?
Two ways to do it. One is contacting me, and I can give them a briefing on that. Or you can simply go to aviationky.org, and the website there will give you information about how to submit the nomination. It's rather simple, no cost. And then the voting is among previous winners who are in the Hall of Fame and a group of people who've helped run the museum since its opening. So they're knowledgeable as well. But going to the website might be a good place to start. But if anyone has interest, definitely working with me, I'll give you an example of how it works. General Chance Saltzman runs the United States Space Force, and that just opened in 2019. General Saltzman is from Bowling Green. and I take a number of periodicals and so on. I found that out. I prepared a nomination for General Saltzman for the Aviation Hall of Fame. I had no idea he got the most votes. He's going to go into our Hall of Fame in October.
Oh.
So it's a process like that. But we have quite a few people in a booklet that are candidates. And it just so happened that General Saltzman won the hearts, I guess, of people. But we've never had someone who is active duty running a branch of military. So I think that maybe impressed the people to vote. But we have a number of, I think there are 13 or 14 women in the Hall of Fame. African Americans have been represented, all ranges of professional pilots, designers. The lady who was involved in developing the Patriot missile system that's getting some print now in Ukraine and in Israel, she's in a Hall of Fame. She's a graduate of Center College and worked at the Marshall Space Flight Center and helped to develop the Patriot missile system. So we have stories like that. Just a number of people, but we certainly encourage nominations because we don't know everyone, and there are deserving people out there who should be nominated.
Okay, I did see Peter Neroni from our one of our board members. He says he appreciates your recognition of the WASPs and he likes that meaning of the acronym. He said, "What inspired you to take up this wonderful mission?"
Oh, well, in my business career, we ended up with a client that was selling aircraft parts. And this is interesting. It was the radome on the Boeing 707, the first airliner. And the company's called Norton Industries. And Norton Industries was trying to sell radomes to people flying 707s. I was assigned that at the agency where I was working and got exposed to so many things. And like other boys, I built model aircraft and so on. And I entertained trying to get into the Air Force Academy, but the eyeballs wouldn't let me do it. And so I've survived through that, but there's always been an interest. And then I was involved with something called the Commemorative Air Force, which is an international group that keeps World War II planes flying. And so just a personal interest. And then with my communication background, I realized a lot of people in America would like to hear about airplanes. And there I go.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Somebody, let's see, it was Larry, said no mention of Al, is it Ulchi, founder of Flight Safety?
Right. I will help him with that. Al Ulchi is in our Hall of Fame. He just doesn't have to be from Northern Kentucky, but Al is in our Hall of Fame. He has been recognized. Is he a native of Ohio or something? But Al started flight safety and some other things at Lunken. So I guess you'd say the predecessor of flight safety, Al Ulchi got involved with. But yes, he is deserving, and we haven't overlooked him. He's in our Hall of Fame.
Yeah. We tried to focus mostly on Northern Kentucky since it says Northern Kentucky History Hour.
Yeah.
I see, let's see, Patrick, when are you going to recognize the first president and visionary founders of Comair, Patrick Sowers and Robert Tranter? Didn't we already do that?
I know who they're talking about. We need their nominations. Yes, I know Mr. Sowers, and I have spoken to Mr. Sowers, but we need to put Mr. Sowers and the other gentleman, what's his name again?
Robert Tranter.
Tranter. If someone wants to step up and do the nomination, I agree they deserve to be recognized. The Mullers came after these guys. In fact, I recall speaking with Mr. Sowers. He carried at that time a picture of those Navajo aircraft, the very first planes they bought. And so Pat is very proud, and I'm open to their nomination. I'd be willing to help out on that.
So Patrick, that might be something you might be interested in doing.
There we go, yes.
Let's see. Do we have anything else, Heather? Let's see. It says Al. Oh, well, Larry did say that Al was from Frankfurt, Shelbyville.
Yes, yeah, Louisville.
Okay.
So he is in the Hall of Fame. Haven't overlooked it.
Yeah. You got anything else, Heather?
No, I think that's all we have so far.
Okay, we have some good questions and some good comments and good feedback. So thank you so much for a great presentation.
You're welcome.
And Heather, what again was the website they can, or email, or how can they contact to get more information?
Aviationky.org. Start there.
All right, Heather, could you get that in the chat for everybody? And then we will go ahead and we will start to wrap up everything because we've got some great stuff going on here at Behringer-Crawford Museum. So Heather, if you want to go ahead and share screen again. Oh, my cup. All righty. So let's see here. As soon as we get that pulled up, we'll get going. We just had the opening reception for our Race to Fame exhibit. Let's see where that's at. Okay, so Race to Fame, Hometown Kentucky Derby Legends is open. You can saddle up and head to Behringer-Crawford Museum to learn more about the remarkable Northern Kentuckians that played a part in the sport of horse racing. So as many of you know, the 150th anniversary of the Run for the Roses is this Saturday, May 4th. So now is the perfect time to come and brush up on the local ties to the sport. Our Barbie exhibit is also on display with dolls, accessories, and memorabilia spanning 65 years. So be sure to come and take a picture in our life-size pink obsessed Barbie box selfie station while you're here. Also, to keep with Barbie, we've got Barbie raffle tickets still on sale. You can enter for a chance to win either a 1999 Spring Collection Spring in Tokyo Barbie or a 1998 Avon exclusive Winter Splendor Barbie. Tickets are only $5 a piece and are available at the front desk. Northern Kentucky History Day is May 4th, which is also the Derby Day, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Erlanger branch of the Kenton County Public Library. Keynote speakers include Northern Kentucky History Hour presenters, such as Bob Webster, Peter Bronson. So you can find out more information about that by calling 859-962-4070, or I'm sure you can check out the library's website and find out more. The next Chippies Sensational Kids Club will be on Thursday, May 23rd, which is World Turtle Day. So preschoolers and their caregivers are invited to celebrate with us while learning how to protect these amazing reptiles habitats with stream-based fun. Register by calling the museum or email Miss Kim at education@bcmuseum.org. We still have spots available for our summer camp Under the Sea Adventure Camp. This is for children entering 2nd through 5th grade. The campers will explore the wonders of the oceans and beaches and the animals that live there. If you are a non-member, the fee includes a free family membership good for a year from the date purchase. So it's an awesome deal. Learn more and secure your spot now by calling the museum at 859-491-4003 or email Miss Kim at education@bcmuseum.org. Music at BCM is just around the corner. We're going to kick off the summer concert series with BCM local favorites, the Turkeys, on Thursday, June 6th. We're getting ready to release that schedule coming up soon, so stay tuned for more for the complete concert schedule coming soon. Our next Northern Kentucky History Hour will be on May 14th with Bridget Stryker. She will be presenting on the local research scientist and inventor, Dr. George Spurdy. So please tune in for that. For more Northern Kentucky history throughout the week, check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel where you can find the latest Curators Chat, along with all of our past Northern Kentucky History Hour presentations. Please like and subscribe. That's all we have time for this evening, so thank you again to all the sponsors and supporters of BCM. Thank you to our presenter. And until next time, take care, everyone, and good night. And thank you too, Heather.